All right, hello, welcome back. We are going to conclude 2 Samuel 3 today. We're going to pick up where we left off, but we're going to see something new. So, if we're honest, all of us in our lives have parts that are bright. There are those threads that are good and spiritual, and we have the dark threads, the threads kind of our natural person, ones that sin. And we can often be at war between these parts of our being. We've seen some of the ugly sides of David recently, but today we're going to see the brighter side. So I've got good news. There are some ugly things that will happen, but we're going to learn some lessons about the spiritual man within David. And the next two parts are going to focus on this, but today's part is going to be the conclusion of chapter 3. Now, to set it all up, before we get back into 2 Samuel, I want to go back to this passage from Romans. It applies to David, and I believe it applies to us as well. And it's in Romans 7. And put yourself in here besides thinking about David. For I do not understand my own actions. For I do not do what I want, but I do the very thing I hate. And if I do what I do not want, I agree with the law that it is good. So now it is no longer I who do it, but sin that dwells within me, for I know that nothing good dwells in me, that is in my flesh. For I have the desire to do what is right, but not the ability to carry it out. For I do not do the good I want, but the evil I do not want is what I keep on doing. Now if I do what I do not want, it is no longer I who do it, but sin that dwells within me. So I find it to be a law that when I want to do right, evil lies close at hand. For I delight in the law of God in my inner being. But I see in my members another law, waging war against the law of my mind and making me captive to the law of sin that dwells in my members. I ask you, can you relate to that? Do we see this in David's life? Yes, we do. I will say this. If you have the war waging, that is actually a good sign. Many people only have the dark. They only have the natural. There's no war taking place. There's none of the bright threads. So I hope you have a war in the sense that that is a good thing, as this passage talks about and as we see in David. So there's kind of related to that natural man. But there's this other thing we see about David. I've mentioned it several times, that he was a man after God's own heart, and I just wanted to share the passage from Acts chapter 13. And it kind of is an encapsulation of this time in history. Then they, Israel, asked for a king, and God gave them Saul, the son of Kish, a man of the tribe of Benjamin, for 40 years. And when he had removed him, he raised up David to be their king, of whom he testified and said, I have found in David, the son of Jesse, a man after my heart, who will do all my will. He was not perfect. We know we've looked at his imperfections, but he did have within him a spiritual man. And we see this testimony that God shares about him. So again, we've seen these dark threads of David's life, the sons with all the different women that will, unfortunately, be part of his life that will continue. But we've seen those great godly threads as well. We think back in 1 Samuel, his courage, his faith, his boldness to take on and to slay Goliath, and all the opportunities he had with Saul that he could have, in his natural being, taken him out, and made his own position as king rise faster, but he did not do so. And again, we think about not just David, but we do want to think about our life. So I want you to think about your areas of your life as we go through this. But let's pick up where we left off. And as the scene ended, there was a time of peace. There was ugly things going on with Abner and Ishbosheth. And there was an accusation, a terrible accusation. It may or may not have been true, but it led to a division. It led to a change in Abner's heart. And he came to seek peace and to join with David and to unite the kingdom. And as we left last time, Abner had come to visit, and David had met with him, and he left in peace, and that's where we're picking up. So, here it is. When Abner came with 20 men to David at Hebron, David made a feast for Abner and the men who were with him. And Abner said to David, I will arise and go, and will gather all Israel to my lord the king, that they may make a covenant with you, and that you may reign over all that your heart desires. So David sent Abner away, and he went in peace. And I think I said last week, the peace for Abner would not last that long, and we're going to see the rest of the story this week. Because who enters the scene again? A blast from the past, Joab. So just then, the servants of David arrived with Joab. Now, who was Joab? Remember? Joab, as Abner was a general for the northern kingdom of Israel, Joab was the leader of the generals for David. And remember that Abner had killed his brother in the last chapter of 2 Samuel in the war. So Joab returned from a raid bringing much spoil with him, but Abner was not with David at Hebron, for he had sent him away and he had gone in peace. Now when Joab and all the army that was with him came, it was told Joab, Abner the son of Ner came to the king, and he has let him go, and he's gone in peace. Different ways for Joab to respond to this. I mean, it was difficult. It's hard for me to imagine, hearing about this man. If that man had killed my family, my brother. Joab went to the king and said, what have you done? He spoke pretty boldly, because he was a subordinate. Behold, Abner came to you. Why is it that you have sent him away, so that he is gone? You know that Abner the son of Ner came to deceive you, and to know you're going out and you're coming in, to know all that you are doing. He's angry. He's upset. He disagrees with the king. And part of this might have been strategy as a general, but I'm sure a lot of it was the personal hate that he had towards Abner. So Joab acts here, if we think about this contrast of our natural being, our spiritual being, he wants vengeance. He wants an eye for an eye. He wants a tooth for a tooth. And when Joab came out from David's presence, he sent messengers after Abner. This was without the king's authority. They brought him to the cistern of Sirah, but David did not know about it. Again, he's taking this, he's not following proper channels. And his blood is boiling. He wants vengeance. And when Abner returned to Hebron, Joab took him aside into the midst of the gate to speak with him privately, and there he struck him in the stomach, so that he died for the blood of Asahel, his brother. Afterwards, when David heard of it, now think, this is putting David's trying to unite the kingdoms. And this could prolong the war. It could keep it from happening. How is he going to deal with this? This is a thing that needs much wisdom. So he says, I and my kingdom are forever guiltless before the Lord for the blood of Abner the son of Ner. May it fall upon the head of Joab and upon all his father's house, and may the house of Joab never be without one who has a discharge, or who is leprous, or who holds a spindle, or who falls by the sword, or who lacks bread. So Joab and Abishai his brother killed Abner because he had put their brother Asahel to death in the battle of Gibeon. And so, if you're not careful, the cycle just keeps continuing with more and more killing. David threaded a needle here. On one hand, he had no knowledge of it. He did not rejoice in it. He decided he did not take the life of Joab, but he did pronounce a curse upon him, and leaves it, though, for God to deal with it, and not a good curse to have. And so we see him acting above all this natural soap opera here. In his personal life, he had all these struggles, but as a king, He displayed a lot of wisdom. So then David said to Joab and to all the people who were with him, "Tear your clothes and put on sackcloth and mourn before Abner." And King David followed the bier, and they buried Abner at Hebron. And the king lifted up his voice, and he wept at the grave of Abner, and all the people wept. And the king lamented for Abner, saying, "Should Abner die as a fool dies? Your hands were not bound, your feet were not fettered. As one falls before the wicked, you have fallen." And all the people wept again over him. Where had David done this before as a leader? He had done it for Saul and Jonathan in the first chapter. Even though Saul had in many ways been his enemy, and for much of this time Abner had been his enemy, he rose above it to be more of a peacemaker than a divider, trying to end this cycle. And so we see this bright spiritual side as we bring the chapter to conclusion. Then all the people came to persuade David to eat bread while it was yet day. But David swore, saying, "God, do so to me and more also if I taste bread or anything till the sun goes down." I think what this shows is that he was not just merely posturing. We think of politicians today, they may say words, but maybe they don't mean them. I think that he said the words, but he wasn't doing something differently in private. I think he was sincere in how he decided he had respect for Abner. I think he was looking forward to the peace and them being united. And I think he knew what had happened was wrong, and it was out of human vengeance and out of God's authority. And notice, and so it was a testimony. And all the people took notice of it, and it pleased them, as everything that the king did pleased all the people. He had a good testimony. That's one responsibility for a leader. It's not everybody's hating him. He was, again, navigating these very horrible circumstances, but he was bringing it together for good. So all the people and all Israel understood the day that it had not been the king's will to put to death Abner the son of Ner. And the king said to his servants, "Do you not know that a prince and a great man has fallen this day in Israel? And I was gentle today, though anointed king. These men, the sons of Zeruiah, are more severe than I. And the Lord repaid the evildoer according to his wickedness." What does the passage say? Is vengeance ours? No, vengeance belongs to God. We should trust him more. We see evil and we're disappointed, but it's not for us to take that into our hands. We see here wonderful wisdom. The kingdom could have remained and continued divided, but through these actions, he was a leader for the people, and he trusted God. So what can we learn as we bring this to conclusion? Well, David had a natural and spiritual being that wrestles, and we do as well. At times, we're going to continue to see, as we have seen, more of his natural side, his human weakness. But we also will see these strong, bright threads that will emerge. Many of the times David could have justified, going back to his earlier days, he knew he had been anointed king. He could have ascended to leadership. He could have back with Saul taken personal vengeance. He could have had glee with Abner, said, "Look at how my enemies have been struck down." But he chose where he could. As long as Saul was an authority, he served him. He tried to have peace with Abner. Let's say on a personal level, our desire should not be to have as many enemies as possible. Our desire should not be about personal vengeance and getting even. We can think about how much God has forgiven us. And if we can't, we should strive to make peace even with people in which it's difficult to have peace. It should be our goal to be a peacemaker. And we also see the importance of wisdom. David faced really a difficult dilemma in all this. He was being watched. but he showed grace, he showed wisdom. And it was for his good and his blessing, but it will also be for the blessing of the nation, that he's leading this nation and he's earning the respect of the people. So let's learn this from David. In his imperfections, he still accomplished much good. The truth is we're all imperfect. The truth is we all will wrestle with our natural man, but we can strive. We may not be kings, but we can strive to be good examples. We can strive to let that godly part of our being shine more. In particular, I want to encourage you, if you're holding on to things like Joab did, and you want that vengeance, you have that anger, and you want to be divided, think about, even as God has forgiven us, how we can forgive others and how we can strive to be peacemakers